Hey, what's going on, Game Leapers? This is Coach Cheese. In today's video, the 10 most low-key broken champions for patch 12.13, which will be hitting the Rift in the next 24 hours or so. So to know who the most underrated champions are going to be for the next 2 weeks, make sure you stick around for the whole video, and to master any of the champions, guys, in the next 10 or so minutes, make sure you check out the Game Leap website in the description, comment section, because our challenger players and coaches upload so many videos a week, up to 20 of them, which are designed to help you become the best, to master a champion, to master a role, the micro, the macro in the game, everything under the sun. Check out those links, get the exclusive access by signing up, and let's get into the countdown. So these 10 champions, they're in no particular order, but for each champion, guys, we're going to give you the rune page, the builds, the summoner spells, the skill order that you need to use in 12.13 that will help you win instantly. So first of all, we're going to talk about Gragas in the top lane, and it's a similar setup for jungle and mid lane Gragas in terms of the build, but what's different for top lane, and these stats right here are from Master and above, so over a 51.5% win rate, an S+ tier champion, this is legit. Now the reason for this is because of the Night Harvester buff a couple of patches ago. This has been great for the Grag, and what's also been great for him is the fact that you yourself got buffed in terms of your damage and your cooldowns a few patches ago, so this means that Gragas top is actually back on the menu, but not the tanky setup. Here we're going with the buff Night Harvester, followed by Lucidity Boots and an Archangel Staff. We need Archangels for the mana, and the ability haste is also really useful, and this just enhances the haste we already have from Night Harvester and its mythic passive and Lucidity Boots as well. Now, of course, make sure to max your Q first, followed by your E and then your W. And the rune page here might look a little interesting, and I guess it kind of is, but First Strike makes sense because being a spellcasting top laner, it should be very easy for you to get the first bit of damage in. That translates to gold, and you can scale into a game, get your items before the enemy top laner. So AP Gragas top, very underrated and has to be played more. Now, staying in the top lane, if we talk about another champion for 12.13, well, how about Tryndamere? Because Tryndamere at the moment in lower elos really isn't doing too well, but if you look here in Master and above, Tryndamere in over 4,000 matches is an S+ tier champion, a bit like Gragas. Now you might be like, how can they be underrated if they're S+ tier? Well, both of them, Gragas top and Tryndamere top, are only really doing well when you know how to play these champions. So because of the buffs to Tryndamere a few patches ago, in terms of the Q-base heal and your ultimate's cooldown, these have really helped him go back to that ultimate sustain Tryndamere setup with second wind, a Q-max, and of course a Doran shield start. It makes him impossible to push out a lane, and you could even think about taking this to the mid lane against those mages who you can just perma-shove in and force them to go So Tryndamere is another champion you guys should definitely consider if you're a top lane main and maybe even a mid lane main. Very, very strong at the moment despite the stats in those lower elos. Now following Tryndamere, let's talk about a champion who is actually getting changed in 12.13, this being Taliyah in the mid lane. Now maybe in the jungle she might be better, maybe is even like an AP carry ball laner she might be better, but Taliyah in the mid lane, it's probably going to be her best role because for Taliyah your Q's damage is going up, the mana cost is going down, and of course you're maxing this first, so this means you'll have more poke during the laning phase and also better wave clear because you'll be dealing more damage, and you'll probably be able to get more spells off because it won't cost as much mana. And yes, Taliyah is a pretty hard champion to master. You're very immobile, so if you do get ganked, you are quite vulnerable, but with the extra wave clear you have and priority you have in the mid lane, it should be super easy just to shove the enemy champion under their tower and then roam. This is when you become a very strong champion, of course, once you hit level 6. And another point of interest here is to take Minion Dematerializer, because this is going to help you not only with your wave clear and winning priority against lots of other ranged champions in particular, and work with your jungler and snowball those side lanes. So Taliyah, another really underrated champion in 12.13, just like Tryndamere and Gragas might not have the most amazing win rates in lower elos, but if you can master her, a super good champion to pick. Now staying in the mid lane, let's talk about another mage who's getting buffed in 12.13, this being Vex. So your Q's cooldown is going down by a full 1 second at each rank. This is massive because you'll be maxing your Q first, and the AP ratio in your Q is going up 10%. Most of the time, Riot might buff this by 5%. 10% is a big improvement. This means you'll be hitting harder, especially in the mid to late game, because it will be scaling off the more AP you get. This is huge for Vex, who is actually kind of struggling at the moment, but she's actually very good in higher elos. And you can see that in Challenger at the moment for Vex, she has a 52% win rate, which might seem a little bit weird because in the durability meta, bursty champions really aren't that great, but the reason Vex is so good, I guess, is because you're mostly picking her as a counter pick champion to those champions with mobility. So champions like Sylas, Yone, Yasuo, they really don't like playing against Vex because of her passive. It's very hard to ever jump onto her because with her W, she can just push you away and you can't do anything about it. So because of the 12.13 buffs, Vex is going to be another champion flying under the radar and maybe even on the radar because the Q buffs do look legit. Now talking about mid laners, but this next one, guys, this is an attack damage mid laner. This is Talon, and the reason I put Talon on this countdown is because the lethality mythics are giving you more movement speed now. So if you're going Prowler's Claw, which is probably where you should be going, you're getting more movement speed for each legendary item you get. get. So once you get Ghostblade, Grudge, Depth Dance, Edge of Night, GA, whatever it is you're building, Serpent's Fang, you are getting more movement speed. This is going to help you in the mid to late game, which is kind of when you fall off, unless you're really snowballing, to get around the map. Kill that AD carry who's farming the side lane, the mid laner, the stranded support who's trying to ward Baron. This is going to make you much more of a threat. And when you pair this with this rune page here, which might look a little whack, but with Phase Rush, Talon becomes very hard to kill. The movement speed is very useful, and it's super easy to proc, especially once you get level 6, because your ultimate is unmissable, as is your W pretty much. So you'll be proccing this very, very easily. And with Gathering Storm in there as well, it's giving you the scaling you do kind of need, because at the moment, games are just going to last longer, so that's really important to run as well. Also consider taking a Dematerializer, just like I talked about for Taliyah, because the wave clear, you don't want to get shoved under your tower, and it's also really useful for your W to one-shot the back minions at a certain point. So Talon in the mid lane is going to be a lot scarier in 12-13. Now let's mix it up here, guys, and head to the bot lane and talk about, well, unfortunately, the only AD carry on this countdown. Now, I could have put Sivir here, but to be honest, I think the most low-key broken ADC of 12-13 is going to be Caitlyn. Now, I think she's low-key broken at the moment, but I still think she's going to be underrated in 12-13 as well, because here's the thing. When Caitlyn's win rate is around 50%, because she's such an oppressive bot laner, we're going to see her picked a heck of a lot more in pro play, because she gives you the best priority in the bot lane, which is so important these days. And yes, the champion is very vulnerable. You have to know how to play this champion. One death pretty much means GG, but if you are a very capable AD carry, it's extremely oppressive to play against, and that's because of the passive buff from last patch. So because your passives headshot are dealing more damage, that's super useful because you'll be using a lot more of these rather than your W. So your traps, that damage actually got nerfed, and lots of people were saying, oh my god, Caitlyn's over, but really not. Yes, people are still going to step on your traps and you won't deal as much damage, but the headshots you get from your passive, these are way more frequent. This means that for Caitlyn, you're more of a threat during the laning phase, during the mid to late game, and these stats you can see, these are in Challenger. So when the best play Caitlyn, a 50% win rate for this champion, really not that bad at all. The big question is though, is she still going to get outscaled by all the other strong AD carries? Maybe, but the real question here is, can you win lane hard enough to not even allow the enemy AD carry to get to that point? I think at the moment you've got a great chance at doing so. Now let's head into the jungle for the next 3 picks here, guys. And the first of these, well, kind of like I was talking about for Gragas, Elise with the new Night Harvester is actually a lot better than what she was before. But there are also a few more reasons why Elise is on this countdown. Well, she's getting buffed, of course, in 12-13. So the buffs to your base HP, your health growth, your armor, and your human Q's base damage, which you're maxing first, well, in the late game anyway, this is going to be really nice for Elise. Now, I guess she is getting tankier, right? So the HP growth, and the armor. Do you really need these? Probably not, right? You're probably going to benefit more from damage because of all the resistance in the game at the moment, so you might still struggle to get more kills. But the point is, these buffs are super nice and certainly give you a big spike in the first 10 to 15 minutes. The extra base HP, the armor, and also the base damage around level 9 and your human Q. This means that the enemy laners have to be very careful of you, and hopefully you can get that snowball going before it's too late. So Elise also on this countdown, just like our next jungler, this being Olaf. Now you might be like, but Olaf is strong in the jungle at the moment. Well, he's a lot better as a top laner, but the reason he's back in the jungle as low-key broken is because you're getting more attack speed from your passive. So this is going to start now at 60% when you get low in terms of your HP. That's great for your clear because you're probably going to full clear every game on Olaf. You'll be doing this quicker, and when you're skirmishing the enemy jungler, those fights are going to get close. Like both junglers, their HP should really correlate. It's not like the enemy jungler is going to stand still and let you hit them. It's going to go down to the wire. This passive buff means that Olaf is going to win all the time. Now they might be hitting your health regen, but this is really bad for lane Olaf, not jungle Olaf, and your Q's mana cost might be increasing, but again, bad for lane Olaf. Just make sure your mid laner doesn't take your blue buff. That's pretty much it. So Olaf jungle is certainly back in business. Just like this next champion, and kind of like I mentioned for Talon, we're talking about Qiyana in the jungle. Now I understand that Qiyana does take a bit of mechanical prowess to really make work, but once you understand this champion, guys, and you can get the hang of her, especially in the jungle, where I think she can be played a heck of a lot more, she can be one of the best carry champs in the game. And of course, because of the movement speed buffs to the lethality mythic, so Prowler's Claw, just like Talon, where you'll be building more movement speed for a champion like Qiyana. Think about your mobility, dashing over walls, especially in the mid to late game. It's going to allow you to get into those advantageous behind enemy lines positions more often, more kills, more wins. So it's going to be a great patch for Qiyana. Just make sure you start with your W and then max your Q followed by your W, and make sure to practice those combos in a practice tool before you go in your game and start headbutting your keyboard. Now the last champion, guys, we have to discuss for this video, this is a champion who's actually getting a lot of changes or adjustments, the balance team call them, in 12-13, this being Gwen. So Gwen in 12-13, in terms of what you're going to be maxing first based on the changes, it's probably going to be your E, because what's happening is that the cooldown refund you get when you auto attack after using your skip and slash, it's going to scale from 25% to 65%. Now, at the moment, it's a flat 50%. So this is going down to 25% at rank 1. That's a significant nerf, but the fact that it's going up to 65%, this is really good once you actually max your E, which could potentially be at level 9. Now, even though the flat cooldown for your E might be a little bit higher, at level 9, this is probably a worthy trade-off. Also, your E's bonus range is going up 25 to 75, which is huge, and your abilities are going to scale more of your AP. And I know lots of Gwen mains, well, they're not really happy about these changes, especially with your ultimate, because now it only resets after 1 second, not after you damage an enemy champion, so you can't spam this as much, and you're probably going to miss your ultimate a bit more often. But I think the E change here is really big. Even the HP regen growth, this is really useful for your sustain in the top lane, which is very important in this meta. So any Gwen mains out there, let me know about all of the changes. Do you think she's going to be low-key broken or just straight up trash? Of course, we will have to wait and see, but my prediction is she's going to be a heck of a lot stronger. So those were the 10 most low-key broken champions, guys, for 12-13. Any thoughts? Leave them in the comment section. If you want us to continue making these videos, please remember to leave a like down below. And until tomorrow's daily Season 12 upload, this has been Coach Cheese. Peace.